Hello everybody, my name is Dick Coughlin. Welcome to Dick's Big Propaganda Podcast. You'll have to forgive me that I'm recording this whilst I'm staying in a hotel at Southend. I'm doing a gig tonight in Southend, and which means I'm away from home, which means this is being recorded on my phone. So if the quality of this recording is not up to the high-level standards that you've come accustomed to with me, then I apologise for this, but I wanted to get this out of the way, and I wanted to talk about two issues today. Get back to two people that I've spoken a lot about over my time here on the internet, Alex Jones and Tommy Robertson. I'll start with Alex Jones because I think this is something that needs to be addressed, mainly because I'm sick and tired of the same bullshit questions being asked to me regarding this. As you're no doubt aware, Alex Jones has been deplatformed, shall we say. He's been banned from certain online platforms. Specifically, he's been banned from iTunes. He's been banned from Spotify. He's been banned from Facebook and YouTube and even Pinterest. For fuck's sake! I mean, Christ, what's next? Dailymotion. LinkedIn. I mean, he was even. I think even Chimp Mail is another one which I don't know what that is, but apparently that's another place he's been banned from. I don't have a clue. He's still on Twitter. He's still going strong on that. He still obviously has his website, and he still has all of it. His own personal platform still available. So it's not like he can't fucking make his shit. Still, he's still going strong there. But he's been banned from all these other ones, and this has kicked off this massive fucking big shitstorm about the usual crap about freedom of speech and all this other blah blah blah, and it's being fun. People are going, "Oh, this is the death of freedom of speech," and this is the end. And I am just sick and fucking tired of it. And I want to make this clear. Some people might say, people are saying to me, "I'm surprised about you." They're assuming that I am supporting I support these, the banning of Alex Jones and all this other stuff, and I haven't even expressed support for the banning of Alex Jones. I've never called for Alex Jones to be banned. I've never encouraged people to flag or report his content. I've never even done it myself. I've always been someone who just I believe my own approach to everything is to I've got my platform. It's not a very big one, but it's bigger than most. So I get on with it. I make my fucking content. And if I see something I object to, I make a video about it. And I've done. And when it comes to Alex Jones, I've probably made more videos about him than. I mean, earlier this year, I dedicated an entire month of my life to doing nothing but watching. Nothing but his content. So, so let's not pretend that I'm someone. So if this was a case of me supporting this, I think it's quite obvious. I would have definitely gone out of my way to, in some way, try and encourage people to report him in the past. And I have never ever done this. Right now, let's be clear here. What I want to get out of the way is why. First of all, why he was actually banned from these platforms, and number two, why this is such a big deal, in terms of why this is a big story. Okay. First of all, if you believe the official story, which ironically is considering this is Alex Jones, I'm actually going to question that. But if you question the official story, it's because Alex Jones produced content that there's a lot of pressure on these big companies to not allow Alex Jones to produce content, or for them not to promote or allow him to use their platform or their content in order to promote his. His conspiracy theories. And let's be clear here: a lot of his conspiracy theories have led to some very, very unfortunate and incredibly dangerous situations. Such as when a guy with a gun turns up at something like Comic Ping Pong because he believes, thanks to Alex Jones, that there's a child sex dungeon somewhere in the basement of the place, or the fact that people who are Sandy Hook parents of the Sandy Hook two children who died at Sandy Hook have had to move house 7 times thanks to harassment. Apparently, even there's a story breaking yesterday that apparently Alex Jones's lawyer is attempting to try and get the address of some of the Sandy Hook parents so they can leak them out, so they can dox the parents of people whose children were murdered. And this is all Alex Jones. Now, if anyone else did this, if anybody else did that, if anybody was actively trying to encourage, and Alex Jones has never, he may have distanced himself from the Sandy Hook and the Pizzagate conspiracies, but he has never once come out and condemned and tried to stop people from not harassing people. He's never once come out and condemned people and told people, do not harass these people, do not do this, that, and the other. In fact, you could argue, looking at a lot of his content, that he actively encourages people. He encourages violence, and he encourages, this whole idea that it's so duplicitous. A lot of his content, he will sit there and talk about how violent and how violent the left and anti-fat are and all that, but he'll ignore the fact that he sits there and goes, "You scum, you trash, I will break your fucking nose." He literally says this. He literally sits there and talks about kicking the shit out of people, and now I've seen videos of him where he fantasizes about what he's going to do to policemen and stomping their face into the fucking ground and smashing their skulls open, breaking people's noses and challenging people to fight. So let's not pretend he's in any way has never fucking done any of this. Right? Now that's the reason they say they're bad. I don't believe that. I think if that was the case, he would have been banned a long time ago, right? The truth of the matter is there's been pressure on people to do this for a long time. There's been pressure on these companies, and it's more a case of, I don't know who the first one to ban him was, whether it was Facebook or iTunes. I think it might have been Spotify, but the fact is that I think it was a case of when one of them blinked, first one to blink, and they thought, fuck it, we'll go along with it, and then the others went too, right? But let's talk, so that's more to do with the fact, because Alex Jones has got a big audience. He brings in a huge amount of, which means he's going to, and having a big audience. I mean, on YouTube alone, if we go by YouTube subscribers, he had 2.5 million subscribers, or near as makes no difference. So let's talk about the real reason. Why was he actually banned? Banned there. So let's talk about why it's a big deal. Because here's the facts, right? People have been getting back ever since social media existed. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, any of this, right? The fact of the matter is, for the last, there are thousands, tens of thousands, I don't know how many thousands of people. People have been getting banned and having content removed and getting flagged and getting accounts terminated and suspended for over 10 years, right? For more than 10 fucking years, this has been the case. I know this because I'm one of those people. I've never been banned from Facebook, but I've had fucking probably close to a dozen fucking 30-day suspensions. YouTube, I'm currently on my fifth main channel in 10 years. Due to content being flagged and terminated, and here's the thing, sometimes. The termination or the removal or the flagging of content, sometimes it's justified. Other times, not so much. And on a very rare occasion, you can appeal it, and you'll get your content put back up, or you'll get your channel back. On other occasions, not so much. Unfortunately, it tends to be the case of when you appeal, it's not the case, and the terms of service, I will admit, on a lot of these websites is very vague, and I think it's purposefully done so. I think it's so they can ultimately pick and choose. Because let's be honest, Alex Jones is not alone. He's not he's not he's not necessarily the worst offender. I mean, as far as I'm aware, David Duke still has a fucking YouTube channel. So let's not pretend that there aren't channels out there. So yes, but simply going, Alex Jones gets suspended, but this channel isn't been suspended, therefore it's all got. Well, I mean, the argument should be, why hasn't that one been? And the argument is simple. Maybe it's because they simply can't be bothered to. But with a lot of cases, here's the thing. up until now, the reason the Alex Jones story is such a big deal is actually is due to the fact that he's such a big user. He's so incredibly popular, and that's what makes this unique, right? There are, like I said, there are tens of thousands of people who have been victims of censorship by these websites for, you know, uploading or posting content or saying something that has been flagged as hate speech or flagged as this, that, and the other, or violating this, you know, one terms of service one term of service or another, and it's been taken down. But up until recently, the fact is, it only ever seems to be the smaller users, the users who it's not exactly massively consequential, the users who are, who are expendable, shall we say, because they're not that massive. I remember back in, let's give an example. I remember back in, I think it was 2011, and back at this point, on YouTube, the number one subscribed channel on YouTube at the time was Ray William Johnson, who had just over 4 million subscribers, and some of his videos got DMCA'd, some of his videos, and his channel disappeared. And this was and I think it was around about the same time, I think WatchMojo.com, I think their fucking YouTube channel had the same time. Both channels were back up within a few hours, right? Why is that? It's because they're big channels, and YouTube will prioritise that, and YouTube doesn't want to afford to lose all of the revenue that will come in from a Ray William Johnson channel or a Watch Mojo. They could give two shits about a channel like mine, which has only got a few thousand subscribers. They'll give, because that's here and there. No one's going to make a massive deal about that. They can afford to do that, and But I have no doubt that if my channel had 5 million subscribers, I could have had a much better channel. You try, if you've got a small channel on YouTube, with just a few thousand subs and maybe only a couple of hundred, and you get DMCA'd, you try getting your channel back within 4 hours. You see how well you do. You'll be lucky to get your channel back, even if it's fair, even if you've got every sort of even if you're completely within the right. So that's the reason. The reason this is a big deal is because this is the first example that there's ever really been of a major channel, of a big user, one of the biggest users of the particular genre of videos that Alex Jones makes, of actually being held accountable for their content, actually having to face, of these websites actually applying the rules across the board. Make no mistake, if Alex Jones had a YouTube channel with 1,000 subscribers and was making the sort of content he did, he would have been banned years ago. He would have been flagged and banned years ago, and you would never have heard about it, and you wouldn't have given a fucking shit. But now, because now the rules clearly seem to be being applied across the board to a bigger user, now suddenly people seem to be bothered. Well, I'm on my I've lost four YouTube channels due to this crap. At no point when my YouTube channels went down did I turn this into, this is the beginning of the end of civilization, this is the death of free speech. And here's the problem, right? And this is the other problem, is the way this is being, politicised and turned into something else. And people are expecting me to... Look, I'll be honest, I'm indifferent one way or another. If Alex Jones gets banned from these sites, tough fucking shit, say I, to Alex Jones. He's a big boy, and he's got a big enough audience, and he's got a big enough fucking reach, and he's got more than enough fucking people who are willing to promote and pimp out his stuff. He's still got his own website. He's still, as far as I'm aware, got an app that's available on an app store you can fucking buy for now. He's still, all of this stuff that existed, and that's all he used to have before social media. He's still got his Twitter account for now, and I'm sure he's still on other websites and other platforms too. Paul Joseph Watson, who works for him, he still has his YouTube channel. So maybe consider that one. Ask yourself, if this is a big conspiracy against InfoWars and Alex Jones, why is the guy who works for Alex Jones, who also promotes his web, why is that not being a big deal, and this is the thing that annoys me, is it's promoted as this idea, is it's turned into this idea that this is somehow a conspiracy to target people like Alex Jones. This is a conspiracy against conservatives. Well, I'm definitely not a conservative, and I've been targeted and censored more than Alex Jones. Now, there are people who sit there and make the argument saying, well, when Alex Jones gets banned from stuff like this, that just vindicates his position. But you've got to understand something. It feeds into his narrative. Well, yes, it does. But you know what? Everything feeds into Alex Jones's narrative. Do you know why? Because he will make stuff up. He will literally he can take anything. One of the videos I once made about Alex Jones, he made an entire video about the BBC, and it was simply because the BBC edited out one single sentence, when they were repeating a news story later in the day. They edited out a single sentence, of the guy who was presenting a report, was out in the field reporting on a piece. They cut it out because they felt it was a bit patronising and maybe could be interpreted as a bit misogynistic. So they cut it out of the repeat. Alex Jones turns this into a whole piece where the BBC and in Britain they've banned the word girl. They've banned this word, and then he turns that into a big thing where it says that there's secret police who sit in restaurants waiting for people to say something, and if he overhears someone say something about Muslims or black people or immigrants, then they'll come and arrest you and take you to some Mars penal colony where you'll be fucking bummed. It's a load of fucking shit. He will turn anything into his narrative, and even if that's the case, and even if this, yes, he sat there. He can sit there and make the argument, this just vindicates everything I've ever said. Well, does that mean that before, when you weren't banned, when you were allowed free reign to get to the point where you had 2.5 million YouTube subscribers, does that mean you weren't vindicated? Does that mean the argument no longer fucking? Does that mean is that the case? He won't answer that, right? But also, the people complaining about it, first of all, again, the free speech issue. Right, this is not a free speech issue in terms of in a legal sense. You want to talk about if we're talking about it from a constitutional standpoint, then the only time it's free speech, the only time it's a free speech violation is if the government are involved in suppressing your speech or punishing you simply for voicing your opinion. Right now, if you're going to make the argument that that this is somehow if you want to sit there and start panicking over this, and you're an Alex Jones fan, then fine, I completely sympathise with that. If you want to make if you're an Alex Jones fan or a right winger and you want to make the argument that it's scary that these tech companies have the monopoly on who can and cannot have a voice or a platform, that's fine. You can make that argument. But you can't sit there and just start acting like this is a new thing. But you also have to come up with, well, what's the solution? Because here's the problem. If you've been making the argument, and Alex Jones has been making this argument for many years, that this is somehow the free market capitalism, and free market capitalism is good, and the freer the market, the freer the capitalism, the better it is, and the invisible hand of the market will decide. And if you want to make the argument then that government regulation and government overreach and socialism and all this other stuff is bad, then you can't then you have to find a way round both of those to try and find a way round. Well, what's your solution? Do you think that these companies, if you set up a website, and it's a website that is a social media where anyone can join, it's a forum where anyone can join, like Twitter, like Facebook, like YouTube. You set this up, you've built it from the ground up, and now it's a multi-billion-dollar company. You have to, you can sit there and make the argument saying, well, if I don't use this, what am I supposed to use? Well, there are other options. The fact that they're not as popular is not their fault. But you have to ask yourself this, how do you get around this? Are you saying these companies should not be allowed to make this decision? Are you saying that these companies shouldn't be allowed to ban people if they decide that they don't want these people? Because here's the problem. If this is a freedom of speech, if this was a genuine free speech violation, then it's very simple. Alex Jones simply has to sue Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. He takes them to court. But he won't do that. And you can't make the argument that he should, because ultimately at the end of the day, they'll just say, well, they have the right. All these companies have to do is to be able to demonstrate that Alex Jones, on more than enough occasions, violated their terms of service. And I think we can all agree that it's not going to be difficult for them to prove that. So that's the first thing. Now, if you're going to argue that it should be illegal, or for them to just ban people willy-nilly at their own behest, then that's fine. But then you're arguing in favour of regulation and government overreach, and you're arguing in favour of nationalising a part of the internet. You've got to make it. You've got to tell me, and then you've got to come up with all the details of it. At what point do we decide that a company is so big that it needs to be nationalised, that you have a right to use it, and that they shouldn't be able to just ban you just like that? And for Alex Jones is lying slightly. He's claiming that he's had no warning. These people have banned him without warning. Well, that's bullshit, because he's had multiple videos and strikes on his YouTube channel. For several months ago, he had 2 videos removed, and lost his, which meant he didn't have the ability to live stream on YouTube anymore. So it's not that he hasn't had warning at all. He has had warnings. He knows the rules. He knows what he knew. He knew this could happen. Just like I know it can happen. Just like I'm a little bit more careful about what I upload onto my YouTube channels. Like I'm aware of that, right? Now that doesn't mean you need to sit there and if he's got anything that he feels is too controversial or too dodgy, then maybe he shouldn't upload that onto YouTube. He should stick it to his website, or stick it on another. Maybe he could use his big audience to try and bring about try and make another website more popular. Encourage people. I'm going to upload on this website, so then his audience can go and see his video content there. I don't know, but you've got to make this argument. And also, if one of the things that has been shared around a lot lately is the fact that if you go onto Infowars, which has a forum where anyone can join and anyone can post, it says quite clearly that if you violate our rules and our terms of service, we will remove your post, and we will ban you from the website. So does that mean, now if we're going to argue this question that people should have the right to people should have the right to not have their accounts banned from these websites, does that mean that Alex Jones now has to? Does that mean that Alex Jones should have to follow these rules? Is he big enough, or is he popular enough? And at what point do we determine that he isn't? This is all the problems. You can't sit there. If you're going to sit there and argue that the free market, the invisible hand of the market will decide, and that's good, and socialism and government regulation and all this other stuff is bad. If you're going to make that argument, you've now got to tell me. You can't sit there and suddenly decide that the free market is shit because it's suddenly decided you're not the one it wants. It doesn't want you anymore. The free market doesn't need you. The free market doesn't want you. Right? Because these people like Alex Jones and people on the right have been more than happy to defend the rights of people who own private businesses to discriminate against whoever the hell they want for whatever reason they want. But back then, but it was easier for them back then, because back then the only discussion was, could they ban ethnic minorities and gay people? Apparently now the question, now they're the ones under the microscope, and they're the ones who seem to be the ones who are the subject of being discriminated against, or the ones who are being targeted. Then I'm afraid, that's. Then if you don't like that, then maybe you should have thought about that when you were making that argument before. So you've got to make that decision, right? This is the problem. You've got to come up with a solution. You can't just sit there and piss and moan about it, because you can cry freedom of speech all you want. It's not a freedom of speech issue. You can talk about how they shouldn't be allowed to. So what's your solution? And you've got to try and make that argument without trying to defend, positions that you've said you don't like, or going against positions that you've said are much superior, or at least admit, if you're gonna either be consistent ideologically and admit that the free market doesn't want us, fuck it, or at least admit that you were wrong maybe. Because there's lots of people there's lots of people on the left who are making arguments about nationalising the internet and making it, a sort of a. And making it a sort of an alienable right. Maybe you could, but if you're going to join them, then you're going to, if they're the people you're going to have to join with, and that's going to be kind of tricky when you suddenly, if you get your power back, if you suddenly get everything back, you're going to go back to the way you were. You're going to argue. You can't then, if you then suddenly succeed in nationalising the internet, and suddenly you've got your platform back, and these websites can't just ban you willy nilly. Then as they see fit. If that's going to be your position, then if you get it back because of that, you can't then sit there and start going back into saying all the stuff you've been saying before. Yeah. So that's where I stand on this issue, right? Am I in favour of it? I'm not for it or against it. It's just that's the way it is. It's the way it's always been. There's nothing I can do about it. But don't pretend that this is all of a sudden the tipping point, because this isn't. If these websites were being consistent and fair, then this would have happened years ago. This would have happened decades ago. But the fact is, it's only just happened now. That's why it's a big deal. Now, let's move on to Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson has been released from. Isn't it weird? Tommy Robinson gets released on bail. He had an appeal and it went through. And he gets released on bail, and all of a sudden, everyone on the right was going, "Yeah, we win, we got him, we fucking did it." Yeah, let me just put something clear here. This is perfectly. I've got no problem with this. With the process of Tommy Robinson having his appeal heard and and being given a chance. Now, he's not been released. He's not free. He's out on bail, and he's going to have his case he's going to go back to court and be retried. He's going to have his case heard again. So don't fucking sit there. Don't sit there and act like all you people who are celebrating it. Fine, that's fine. That's fine. And fair play to all the people who have been dedicated to dedicated all their free time and their lives and their existence. And neglected everything else in their life to this cause. It's good. It's good to be passionate about something, but don't think that necessarily that your hashtags and online petitions were the tipping point, that they had any influence. And if you are going to argue that, then you can't really argue that there's a conspiracy. The whole thing about this was that this was a big conspiracy against Tommy Robinson. That this is a big conspiracy against free speech and Tommy Robinson and the fucking and it's a big conspiracy against the right and all this other stuff and it's political correctness. Well, if he's being given a chance, if he's been released on bail and he's being given another chance to have his case heard, it's kind of difficult for you to make that argument now, isn't it? What kind of giant conspiracy, what kind of giant, Illuminati type deep state organisation, how scary are these people? How powerful are they if they're going to be won over by a couple of twats on Twitter with a hashtag and a frigging, and a couple of online petitions on change.org? That's what I would argue. That's where I would fucking, say there. But Tommy Robinson comes out of prison, and he's been released. He's not been in there long. He's not been in there long. He's been in there, about a little over a month. And the thing this is the bit that this is the bit that drives me mad, is he comes out and this is Tommy Robinson. This is and he lodges a complaint. One of the complaints he's lodging is that he was being, and I quote, mentally tortured. Those were his words, not mine. Mentally tortured. Why? Because they wouldn't let him have a television in his cell. So he has to go a month or so without television, and that is mental torture. I'm sorry, this is meant to be the guy who is being touted as the real man, the British bulldog. He's the big tough hard nut. He is Mad Max. He's the freaking guy. He's the guy who's going to lead us in the battle against the evils of the Islamic overlords who are going to come, who are trying to destroy our way of life. He's the guy who's going to be at the front line. Tommy. I remember Alex Jones even made a fucking video about this. Said Tommy Robinson Robinson is a real man. That was literally the title of the video. Tommy Robinson is a real man. This is it. And he goes a month without TV and he's like, I'm being mentally tortured. I'm sorry. Who's the fucking oversensitive? Who's the hypersensitive, thin-skinned, pussy little snowflake now? Who's the big wimp now? I'm sorry, you think that going without TV for a month is mental torture? What does that make you look like? What kind of message does that send to the Islamic extremists, who are people, by the way? Let's not forget, these are people who are willing to strap explosives to themselves and blow themselves up to make a point. These are people who are willing to literally just kill themselves and anyone around them, just to make a point. And you think that Tommy Robinson is the guy to take these people on? If I bet the second that that news broke, I bet that there are every Islamic fundamentalist the world over, from Iran, Saudi Arabia, all the way to the people who those little groups in Europe and everywhere around the world. Any Islamic fundamentalist, any Muslim, full stop, who heard that is pissing himself. In fact, this is probably the most damage that Tommy Robinson has done, because I'm sure there are probably groups of Islamic extremists in training camps right now who heard that news, who probably laughed themselves to death. They probably laughed so hard they died of oxygen deprivation, because they were just exhaling carbon dioxide, and they pissed themselves. They died of dehydration because they were urinating so much through all the piss they were living. He's a fucking wimp. It's mental torture. Okay, fuck him. Do you think no? And the fact that people were comparing this man to Nelson Mandela. Do you think Nelson Mandela had a bloody TV when he was in prison for God knows how many decades? Did he come? Do you think Nelson Mandela got out of prison, after in South Africa, and the first thing he said, what's happened in EastEnders? No, he didn't fucking care. This is how luxurious, how comfortable does your life have to be that you consider it torture to go without a bloody television? And you think you think this is the man? And what annoys me about this is the fact that all these Tommy Robinson supporters online, they just took that. They just accepted that. They accepted that this was, that they were defending him. Do you know what? If I was you people who support Tommy Robinson, whether I like you or not, I would be fucking furious if I was you. If I was in your position, I'd be sat there, just absolutely fuming. Going, you're fucking joking. We put all this effort in. We've been doing nothing. Every spare waking minute of our lives we've been dedicating to trying to get you, to try and raise awareness and get you and support you and get you out of prison. We've built you up as this leader, this big, hard, tough figure who's a symbol of everything good and noble. And and you come out and you start, and it turns out you're crying because you didn't have a TV. I'd be fucking furious. I would be sat there going, you absolute fucking poison dwarf prick. How dare you? How the hell are you going to beat? How are you going to beat, ISIS? How are you going to beat, Al-Shabaab? How are you going to beat how are you going to beat anything? How are you going to defeat Islamic extremism when you can't even go a month without a TV without considering that frigging torture? It's pathetic. He's pathetic, and yes, if I had the opportunity, I would happily say it to his face. Once, obviously, I'd kneel down so I could be level with it, right? Because I'm not scared. Because here's the thing, Tommy. Here's the thing. Tommy Robinson doesn't scare me. He doesn't scare me, and if he doesn't scare me, then I severely doubt that he scares any Muslim. Even you find the most moderate, easygoing, modern, contemporary, westernised person who is still a Muslim. Tommy Robinson does not scare them. Because all I have to do is hold up a fucking TV and smash it in front of him, and the little prick will start crying. It's pathetic. The whole thing's frigging pathetic, and so I'm sick of it. And I don't know. I don't know the exact date of when his trial starts, but I'm sure I'll be back and we can talk about that another time. But that's all I've got to say on those two issues, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dick Coughlin. This is Dick's Big Propaganda Podcast. If you want to support this podcast and my videos on YouTube, you can donate to my Patreon, patreon.com/DickDynasty666, or you can make a donation through PayPal, or you can buy something from my merchandise. Other than that, please, if you enjoy this podcast, please share it around, like it, subscribe to it, follow it on iTunes, while it's still there, available, right? And I'll see you around. Thank you very much. Goodbye.